The sun had barely climbed above the horizon when the capital of Burkina Faso came alive. Ouagadougou, a city of dust and dreams, breathed like a single heartbeat. Vendors shouted prices that tangled with the hum of engines and the laughter of schoolchildren. Smoke from roasted plantains curled through the air, wrapping itself around the scent of wet earth after dawn's brief rain. But amid this sea of motion, one man walked in silence. No cameras followed him. No convoy blared sirens ahead, only the sound of his boots pressing softly into the red dust. He looked like any other man, tall, calm, his shirt sleeves rolled up. Yet everyone who had ever heard his name would know this was no ordinary passerby. This was Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, a man the people called the soldier of the people, a leader who traded ceremony for sincerity, palaces for presents. That morning, after visiting farmers before sunrise, Ibrahim had chosen to walk alone through the city's central market, his favorite place to feel the pulse of his nation. 3 plain-clothed guards trailed at a distance, pretending to shop. One aide kept watch from afar. It was Ibrahim's rule: stay back. Let them see me as their brother, not as their ruler. The market was alive in every corner, a mosaic of color and chaos. Women balanced baskets of oranges on their heads. Children chased each other between wooden stalls. And a radio nearby sang an old revolutionary song about dignity and unity. And then, silence. It wasn't sudden, but it was heavy, a ripple in the noise. Like the world had briefly stopped breathing. Ibrahim turned toward the stillness. At the edge of a small crowd stood a girl, maybe 7, maybe 8, too young to carry such weight in her eyes. Her dress was patched, her sandals worn, but her posture was straight, proud in its simplicity. In her tiny hands, she held a piece of cardboard. The handwriting was uneven, the words trembling across the rough surface. "Please help my mother. She is sick." 6 words, no begging, no theatrics, just truth. Raw, unfiltered truth written by a child who had run out of options. The crowd watched quietly. Some looked away, uneasy, but Ibrahim, he couldn't. Something inside him, the soldier, the son, the father, half froze. The market sounds faded. He could only see her eyes, dry, but carrying the weight of tears that had forgotten how to fall. He stepped forward, slowly, carefully. The girl flinched, unsure, clutching the cardboard to her chest like a shield. Ibrahim crouched until he was at her eye level. The chaos of the market dimmed behind them. Even the vendors seemed to pause mid-sentence. He smiled gently. "Hello, little one," he said. His tone was calm, warm, like a father speaking to his child after a nightmare. "Don't be afraid. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, her voice barely a whisper. "Fatou. That's a beautiful name, Fatou. Tell me, what's happening?" Her lips trembled. She bit them, trying to stay brave. Then, with the courage only desperation can give, she said, "My mom. She's sick. We don't have money for medicine." "I just wanted to help her." Her voice cracked on the last word. Ibrahim felt something twist inside his chest, something deeper than pity. In that moment, Fatou's words hit him harder than any government report ever could. He had read about medicine shortages in neatly typed columns, heard budget debates about healthcare reforms, but none of that. Compared to this, a little girl standing alone with cardboard courage, he didn't reach for his wallet. He didn't hand her cash or promise miracles. Instead, he asked quietly, "Where is your mother, Fatou?" Fatou blinked in surprise. "She's home," she said. "Not far," Ibrahim nodded, extending his hand. "Show me," he said softly. "Let's go to her together." A hush swept through the nearby crowd. For a heartbeat, even the city seemed to pause, the hum of life fading into disbelief. The president, their president, was about to follow a child through the dusty alleys of the capital. Fatou stared at his hand, small and calloused from years of service. She hesitated. Then, with a fragile kind of trust, she placed her tiny hand into his. The moment their fingers touched, something profound shifted. A silent pact between power and innocence, between the state and the soul of its people. And so they began to walk through narrow lanes where laundry fluttered between walls, past women stirring pots of thick porridge over charcoal, buyers, past boys pushing broken wheelbarrows, shouting greetings in Moray and French. The market noise faded behind them. The sun climbed higher, its light painting gold across the city's tin rooftops. From afar, it looked like an ordinary walk. A man and a child moving quietly down a dusty road, but those who watched closely knew it was something else. Entirely, a girl leading her president through the heart of his own country, a reminder that leadership begins not with speeches, but with listening. As they disappeared around a corner, a vendor whispered, "He's walking with the people again," another murmured, "That's why we trust him." And somewhere above the crowded city, a single flag rippled in the morning wind, the red, green, and gold of Burkina Faso, waving proudly as if the nation itself was watching. The camera would linger on their hands, the large, weathered hand of a soldier holding the fragile fingers of a child, then fade into the dusty road ahead, heat shimmering, footsteps slow but steady. A quiet voiceover could echo, in the smallest gestures. History finds its truest meaning. Sometimes, it takes the courage of a child to remind a nation of its heart. A child led her president through the labyrinth of Ouagadougou's forgotten alleys. Her head barely reached his waist, yet her steps carried the quiet courage of an army. The afternoon sun cast long, golden shadows across the rusted rooftops. Tin sheets glimmered. Children laughed as they chased wire-made cars, and the air pulsed with the rhythm of distant drums. But beneath the noise there was another rhythm, slower, heavier, the rhythm of poverty. The kind you don't just see, you feel it in your chest, in every wall that leans too far, in every door that opens to almost nothing. Ibrahim walked beside Fatou without saying a word. He didn't ask for attention. He didn't wave to the people watching. He simply matched her pace, slow, steady, patient, as though every step they took together was a promise. After a while, his deep voice broke the silence. "What's your name?" She hesitated, eyes on the ground. "Fatou, that's a beautiful name," he said softly. "Tell me, Fatou, how long has your mother been sick?" Fatou's voice was barely a whisper. "A few weeks. She used to sew clothes for people in the market, but then she started coughing. She got weak. Now, she can't work." The words came out in fragments, like pieces of a story she didn't want to tell. Ibrahim didn't interrupt. His silence was full, the kind that listens with both the heart and the mind. As they walked, the city began to fade into the margins, replaced by cracked walls, broken gates, and barefoot children chasing laughter they didn't fully understand. A woman stirred cassava over a fire, humming an old song. Two old men argued under a neem tree about football, even though neither had seen a match in months. Poverty was everywhere, but so was pride. Even in the smallest homes, people swept the dust from their doorways, ironed their clothes, and greeted each other with dignity. Ibrahim's gaze lingered on each face. "This," he thought, "this is the soul of my country. Not the buildings, not the speeches. These faces." "Do you go to school, Fatou?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "Not anymore. We couldn't pay for books." He stopped walking for a moment. Her words hit him like a stone to the chest. He had read numbers, reports about education reforms, percentages and projections, but this wasn't a number. This was a child with dreams put on pause because her mother couldn't breathe without pain. How many more like her? He whispered to himself. The path narrowed, twisting between walls patched with scrap wood and rusted tin. Finally, Fatou stopped and pointed to a small shelter leaning against a crumbling wall. "That's our house." It wasn't much, a patchwork of metal and faith. But it stood, defying the wind and the world. A faded curtain hung in the doorway. Inside, shadows danced with the thin rays of sunlight that slipped through holes in the roof. It smelled of soap, dust, and quiet endurance. A woman lay on a thin mattress placed directly on cracked cement. She tried to rise when she saw them enter. Her face was pale, her cheeks hollow, her eyes tired but still filled with light. "Ma'am," Ibrahim said quickly, kneeling down. "Please don't get up." The woman blinked. Then slowly, realization dawned in her eyes. "Mr. President?" she whispered. Disbelief and fear tangled in her voice. "Yes," he said gently. "But today I am just Ibrahim." Her lips trembled. I didn't think anyone would come." He took her hand softly, the kind of gesture that holds both strength and compassion. "Your daughter brought me here," he said, glancing toward Fatou. "She's very brave." The woman looked at her child, pride and sorrow clashing silently in her eyes. "I taught her never to beg," she whispered. "But I guess she couldn't watch me like this anymore." "You didn't raise a beggar," Ibrahim said. "You raised a fighter." He looked around the small room, the cracked jug in the corner, a torn calendar, a piece of chalk writing on the wall. "God is watching. Do you have food?" "Clean water?" he asked. The woman shook her head weakly. "Sometimes the neighbors help, but it's hard." Ibrahim reached for his phone, his tone suddenly firm, focused, the soldier returning to command. "Marie," he said, his voice low but urgent. "Send a medical team immediately. Supplies, water, food, everything. And I mean everything. 15 minutes. The voice on the other end didn't hesitate. "Yes, Mr. President, right away." He hung up, and silence filled the small room again. But it wasn't the silence of despair. It was the silence before change. Ibrahim stayed beside the woman, asking about her life, how she started sewing, the markets she sold at, the colors she loved to work with. She spoke softly, every word carrying both fatigue and grace. Then he turned to Fatou. "What's your favorite subject in school?" Fatou blinked, caught off guard. "Math," she said shyly. "I like numbers," Ibrahim smiled. "Numbers, Maybe one day you'll help me fix the national budget." For the first time she giggled, a small, clear laugh that broke through the heaviness like sunlight. Her mother's eyes filled with tears at the sound. In that fragile shelter, Ibrahim was no longer a president. He was a man kneeling on cracked cement, face lit by hope, hands marked by service. He didn't see poverty. He saw possibility. Outside, the hum of an engine approached. The crunch of tires on gravel grew louder. Fatou ran to the doorway. A white van rolled to a stop, its side marked, "Ministry of Health, Mobile Care Unit." 4 medical workers stepped out. 2 nurses, a doctor, and a coordinator. They moved quickly, but with calm precision. At the front was Marie, a woman with kind eyes and a clipboard pressed against her chest. She met Ibrahim at the door. "This is the place?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "Do everything you can. Spare nothing." Marie stepped inside and her face softened instantly. The cracked walls, the worn mattress, the smell of illness and endurance. She had seen this story before, too many times, but somehow, today it felt different. The doctor knelt beside Fatou's mother, his stethoscope pressed gently to her back. The faint wheeze of her lungs filled the silence. Fatou clung to her cardboard sign, now bent and wrinkled as though afraid to let it go, as if it had summoned this moment. Ibrahim stood near the doorway, watching quietly. For a second he closed his eyes and whispered, almost to himself, "If one mother's pain can shake a nation's conscience, then maybe we are not lost yet." The room filled with a quiet hope. Not the loud, temporary kind, but the deep, steady kind that begins revolutions. The small room was silent, except for the faint hum of the IV line and the steady rhythm of breath returning to a frail body. Fatou's mother coughed, a harsh, deep sound that shook the walls and sent Fatou's small hands trembling against the doorframe. The doctor looked up, his face calm but serious. "It's a severe respiratory infection," he said softly. "Advanced but treatable. She's gone too long without care." His voice carried certainty, the kind born from years of exhaustion, not arrogance. Fatou's voice broke the silence. "Will my mom be okay?" The doctor turned, crouching slightly to meet her eyes. "She's strong," he said with a gentle smile. "Just like you." "We'll do everything we can." The medical team moved in perfect rhythm and quiet, coordinated, efficient. An IV line slid into the woman's arm. Antibiotics were prepared. Fluids flowed. Each motion was a small act of defiance against despair. Marie, her sleeves rolled up, unpacked a crate filled with supplies, bottles of clean water, Sacks of rice, soap, canned milk, and blankets folded tight. At the bottom, she found a small wrapped bundle, cloth tied with red string. She knelt beside Fatou, her voice soft. "This is for you." Fatou hesitated, then unwrapped it carefully. Inside were notebooks, pencils, and a brightly colored storybook. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. Fatou's eyes widened, and for the first time that day, the weight on her small shoulders seemed to lift. She traced the cover of the book with her fingers, almost afraid it would vanish if she blinked. In the corner, Ibrahim watched silently, not as a president, but as a witness. His hand rested on his knee, his eyes soft with something deeper than pity, a vow forming quietly in his heart. Cut to outside, soft ambient sounds, murmurs of a growing crowd. Word had spread, neighbors gathered near the doorway, whispers weaving. Through the alley, "The president is here. He came. Himself, he's sitting with them." Some people stood with folded arms, disbelief mixing with admiration. Others pressed palms together in silent gratitude. Inside, Ibrahim remained seated on a low wooden stool beside the sick woman. He still held her hand, fragile, cold but alive. Her lips moved slowly, her voice thin but clear. "Mr. President," she whispered, "we don't want to be a burden." Ibrahim met her gaze. His expression didn't shift, and steady, calm, resolute. "You are not a burden," he said softly. "You are the reason we build this country. You and your daughter. You are the heart of Burkina Faso. My duty is to make sure you are never forgotten." A tear slipped down her cheek. Silent, glistening in the sunlight streaming through the torn curtain. And by the doorway, Fatou stood in stillness, her small hands clutching the cardboard sign that had changed her world. She looked at the man beside her mother and saw not power, but presence. The man from the posters was now sitting in her home, holding her mother's hand like family. Nearly an hour later, the doctor rose, wiping sweat from his brow. "She's stable," he said. "She'll need medicine and rest, but she'll recover." Relief flooded the room. It was as if everyone breathed at once for the first time in hours. Marie approached Ibrahim, her clipboard close to her chest. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sir, this isn't rare. There are hundreds like her. Thousands, maybe. Every neighborhood has a Fatou." Ibrahim nodded slowly. He didn't speak right away. His eyes moved over the cracked walls, the single flickering candle, the worn curtain fluttering in the heat. "I know," he said finally. "This isn't about one family. It's about the streets we've forgotten. The voices no one hears." He stood tall and silent, the sunlight catching on his face as if the room itself had shifted around him. Fatou stepped forward, her small fingers gripping the cardboard sign. She looked up at him with quiet strength. "Thank you, Mr. President," she said, her voice steady now. I don't think I need this anymore." She held out the sign, the same one she'd carried through the market, her last hope written in 6 shaky words. "Please help my mother. She is sick." Ibrahim took it with both hands, gently, reverently, as if it were not cardboard but a flag. He didn't fold it. He didn't set it aside. He held it to his chest. "You were brave today, Fatou," he said quietly. "You reminded me what matters most." Then he turned to Marie. "We start here," he said. "This street. This neighborhood, one home at a time. Let this be the first ripple." Marie nodded, her eyes shining. The team packed their supplies, but no one spoke. Even the neighbors outside stood in silence, a kind of sacred respect for what they had just witnessed. The van's engine roared to life, rolling slowly down the dusty road. Fatou and her mother stood in the doorway, hands clasped, watching it disappear into the horizon. The air felt different, lighter, charged, alive. What remained behind wasn't just medicine. It was hope, and hope travels fast in Burkina Faso. That same afternoon, the neighbor who had watched from across the street posted a single photo online. The president sitting on a cracked stool, holding a child's hand, and beside them, the cardboard sign. Within hours, the photo was everywhere, shared, reposted, translated. Marie uploaded another picture, the one she had taken silently from the corner. Her caption simple but powerful. By nightfall, The images had swept across the country, farmers in distant villages, gathered around radios, teachers, in dusty classrooms shared the story between lessons. Students in crowded dormitories stared at their screens, quiet, inspired. For a nation used to stories of hardship, this one felt different. It wasn't about politics, it was about kindness. In the village of Kaya, women gathered under a baobab tree the next morning. They brought baskets filled with millet and laughter. "We'll start a food drive," one said. "If the president can walk for one mother, we can walk for 10. In Bobo Dioulasso, a group of young men posted flyers. Free health clinic, inspired by Fatou. They worked all night setting up tents and gathering supplies. From city to countryside, something invisible was moving. A tide of empathy. A chain of action sparked by a single cardboard sign. The city is waking up. Vendors pull open their stalls. Children run barefoot across dusty streets. And the sound of distant drums rolls like thunder announcing change. Across Burkina Faso, something has shifted. A quiet revolution, built not on slogans or speeches, but on compassion. In the capital's university, students arrange tables beneath a tree, stacking books, pencils, and handwritten signs. Free reading class for every child. A young man laughs as he writes the word hope in chalk across the blackboard. Across the country, others follow. Women weave baskets to raise funds for sick neighbors. Farmers set aside part of their harvest for those with empty bowls. Teachers open their classrooms early, refusing to turn away a single child. It all began with a cardboard sign. Cut to inside the presidential palace. The heavy doors close. Around the long wooden table sit ministers, advisors, governors. The air is thick with expectation. President Ibrahim Traoré stands at the head, not towering, but calm, centered. "This cannot be a passing wave," he says firmly. "We must turn this compassion into structure, into justice." The finance minister clears his throat. "Mr. President, this is noble," he says carefully, "but where will the money come from? Our coffers are already thin." Another voice, a provincial governor. "And how do we ensure fairness? Too often resources disappear before they reach the people." For a moment, silence hangs heavy in the air. Then Ibrahim leans forward, his tone quiet but unshakable. "We will begin with what we have," he says. "A modest emergency fund, transparent and open to the public. The people will be our guardians. Every coin accounted for, every meal documented." He looks around the room, his eyes fierce yet kind. This movement was born from trust. We cannot betray that. We must let the people lead. Heads begin to nod slowly. The air shifting from doubt to determination. And with that, a seed becomes a movement. Ibrahim steps to the podium, but this time, there's no script in his hand. In his grasp is something far simpler. The same cardboard sign, now framed behind glass. He holds it up for all to see. "This," he says, voice steady, "is more than a sign. It is a mirror, showing us who we are and who we must become." He pauses, the room silent. What happened to Fatou and her mother is not an isolated event. This sign, written by a child's trembling hand, speaks for millions. And we will answer it, not with promises, but with action. He announces a new initiative. Solidarity Hands. Its pillars are clear: health, education, food. But its foundation is something deeper: human dignity. No family should be invisible. Ibrahim says, no child should carry the burden of hunger or sickness alone. We will build from the ground up, community by community, heart by heart. Outside, as his words reach the streets, the people rise. Drums echo. Bells ring, and once again hope travels faster than Zondot. Billboards are replaced by flyers offering free checkups. Young volunteers in red vests distribute food under mango trees. Mothers laugh together as they sew. Uniforms for children who never had one. And in homes, once heavy with silence, you can now hear something new, songs at the heart of it all. Fatou and her mother. The air smells of earth and rain. Rows of green vegetables sway gently in the wind. Fatou's mother kneels, her hands strong again, tending to the plants. "I never thought something like this could happen to us," she says to a visiting journalist, her smile soft and proud. But now I want to help others the way we were helped. Under the nearby mango tree, Fatu sits with her notebooks open. Her handwriting has grown confident.